One small change on a collegiate roster has reportedly created a family-sized storm around Phil Mickelson. At 56, Lefty is facing claims that his son Evan has dropped the famous Mickelson name. Fans are asking whether this was a harmless paperwork adjustment or a public step away from his father's troubled legacy. Phil knows how quickly one bad bounce can turn a safe round into disaster. This time, however, the hazard may be waiting at home. Would Evan really abandon a surname linked to 6 majors and 45 PGA Tour victories? Or has the internet taken one unclear detail, handed it a driver, and launched it straight into gossip country? One answer suggests a private decision being wildly misunderstood. The other points toward a painful family divide that no trophy can repair. Make sure you subscribe because we are examining the roster claim, Phil's recent controversies, and the clues fans believe reveal a much deeper fracture. Before anybody declares a family divorce from one roster entry, we need to slow the cart down. The claim spreading online is dramatic. The proof behind it is not nearly as strong. No verified statement from Evan says he rejected his father's surname. No public announcement from Phil confirms a falling out. Most importantly, Evan's own professional website identifies him as Evan Samuel Mickelson. It also describes him as a Brown University graduate who studied computer science and economics. In other words, the name supposedly dropped is still sitting there in public, attached to Evan by Evan himself. That does not make the story meaningless. It makes the real story more interesting. Why were so many people ready to believe it? Why did a vague roster rumor sound possible the moment Phil's name became involved? Phil's damaged reputation makes even weak rumors travel frighteningly quickly. Evan was born in March 2003 as Phil and Amy Mickelson's youngest child and only son. His arrival was not an easy family moment. Phil later spoke about the dangerous delivery Amy endured and the medical trouble surrounding Evan's birth. That history matters because the bond being questioned did not begin on a golf course or inside a university database. It began during a frightening moment when a family's focus was survival, not surnames, sponsorships, or public image. Growing up as Phil Mickelson's son also came with a strange kind of privilege. Evan saw major trophies, President's Cup celebrations, private courses, famous players, and the machinery surrounding one of golf's biggest careers. Yet every advantage carried a shadow. A normal mistake could become a Mickelson mistake. A college choice could become a headline. Even silence could be studied like a disputed rules decision on Sunday afternoon. Think about that pressure. Phil was not merely a successful golfer. He became Lefty, the risk-taking showman who attacked impossible pins and treated safe golf like a personal insult. His 45 PGA Tour victories placed him among the game's most accomplished players. 6 major championships turned the family name into a global brand. Then, his 2021 PGA Championship victory at age 50 made him the oldest men's major champion. That triumph polished the Mickelson name brighter than ever. Only 1 year later, the shine changed. Phil's comments about the proposed Saudi-backed league caused outrage. He stepped away from public competition, lost sponsors, and eventually joined LIV Golf. Supporters called him brave for challenging the PGA Tour. Critics called him selfish, reckless, or worse. Suddenly, Mickelson was not only a surname connected to magical flop shots, it became shorthand for golf's civil war. Evan did not create that battle. He did not sign a LIV contract, criticize tour leadership, or negotiate appearance money. Still, famous children often inherit the public bill for decisions they never made. That is where sympathy must enter the conversation. A son can love his father while disliking the spotlight around him. He can admire the champion but reject the circus. Those positions are not mutually exclusive, despite social media's deep commitment to turning every family into opposing teams. The family had already experienced unwanted attention during the 2019 college admissions scandal. Phil and Amy acknowledged using college advisor Rick Singer's company for guidance and tutoring, but Phil denied that his children had been involved in wrongdoing. He said the family had looked at dozens of schools and believed the service was legitimate. When criticism reached his children, Phil publicly said that part hurt him. That episode offers important context. College records involving a Mickelson child were never going to be treated like ordinary paperwork. Every listing invites old suspicion. Every change can be dragged back to 2019, even without evidence connecting it to misconduct. Evan's education therefore sits at an uncomfortable intersection, a private academic path carrying a surname already tied to public controversy. Here is where the roster theory runs into a very large bunker. Evan's public identity still includes Mickelson. His personal site presents his full name without hesitation. Public professional information also connects him to Brown and a career in technology rather than collegiate golf. That makes the language of a shocking athletic roster shift especially questionable. He is not publicly building a professional golf resume under a secret new surname. Available evidence points toward a young man developing a life outside his father's sport while continuing to use the family name. So, where could the confusion have started? Similar names appear across college athletics. Old rosters remain indexed online, and low-quality biography pages regularly mix identities, schools, and careers. One page can claim Orange Coast College, another can point toward Brown. A search result can combine an unrelated athlete with a celebrity's child, and suddenly the rumor machine has a full tank. Apparently, matching the right Evan to the right college is optional once the headline has enough capital letters. This does not prove that father and son agree about everything. Families rarely do. Phil's gambling history alone could create difficult private conversations. In 2023, he publicly described gambling as an addiction that damaged relationships and caused harm to people he cared about. He urged others to recognize warning signs before entertainment became destructive. That admission showed accountability, but it also confirmed that the consequences reached beyond a betting account. For a child, hearing the world debate a parent's addiction can be brutal. Strangers measure losses, repeat stories, and turn pain into content. Meanwhile, the family deals with the emotional cost that never appears on a sports book receipt. Evan may have witnessed stress no fan could see. Amanda and Sophia may have carried their own version of it. Amy stood beside Phil through enormous highs and painful lows. None of that gives outsiders permission to invent a split, but it explains why the rumor found fertile ground. Then there is LIV Golf. Phil's move changed how a generation of fans viewed him. On one hand, he argued that competition could force professional golf to improve. On the other hand, his critics believed he helped fracture the sport for money. Whichever side you take, the decision placed the Mickelson family name inside a political, financial, and moral argument much larger than golf scores. Imagine entering a job interview while your surname instantly reminds the room of Saudi funding, PGA Tour lawsuits, gambling stories, and televised arguments. Your own qualifications can disappear before you finish introducing yourself. A young adult might reasonably want space from that noise without rejecting his father. Independence is not betrayal. Privacy is not punishment. Building a career in software instead of chasing a tour card is not some dramatic walk down the 18th fairway away from dad. Yet Phil's public image makes a harsher interpretation tempting. Lefty built his career on aggressive choices. Fans cheered when the ball cleared the water and groaned when it landed beside a hospitality tent. Off the course, that same appetite for risk produced consequences that cannot be escaped with a miraculous recovery shot. If Evan ever chose to reduce his public connection to the Mickelson brand, plenty of viewers would see it as the final family penalty for years of controversy. Would that conclusion be fair? Not without direct evidence. A surname can be used differently across school systems, athletic databases, employment profiles, and social accounts. Middle names may replace last names for privacy. Records can be shortened. Technical errors happen. College staff members are capable of making boring mistakes, although the internet finds that explanation deeply offensive because boredom has terrible click-through rates. What has Phil said about Evan recently? Nothing public that verifies this alleged break. What has Evan said about abandoning his father's name? Again, nothing confirmed. Their silence cannot be treated as a confession. Celebrities are not required to issue a family press release whenever strangers build a theory. Sometimes refusing to feed a rumor is not damage control. It is simply refusing to throw another ball onto a range already covered in them. Still, silence creates a vacuum, and golf fans know how quickly speculation fills one. Phil has spent decades sharing selective pieces of family life. His children appeared around tournaments when they were younger. Amy became a beloved figure among fans, especially after her breast cancer diagnosis in 2009 and Phil's decision to step away from competition to support her. Those public memories made the Mickelsons feel familiar. Once a family becomes part of the champion's story, viewers start believing they own the next chapter too. They do not. Evan is now an adult with the right to define himself. He may feel proud of Phil's achievements while wanting his work to stand alone. A computer science graduate should not need to win 6 majors before people notice his own resume, nor should he be forced to answer for every controversial sentence his father has spoken. Famous parents can open doors, but their shadows can also block the light. Now we reach the question at the heart of this entire storm. Is the Mickelson name still an asset, or has Phil's legacy made it a burden for his children? Financially and historically, the name carries enormous power. It represents victories at Augusta, Moorfield, Kiowa Island, and beyond. Emotionally, however, it also carries public fights, lost sponsorships, gambling revelations, and endless judgment. A trophy cabinet can preserve achievements, it cannot erase consequences. Phil's supporters will argue that this rumor proves how unfair the treatment has become. They will say critics are dragging his son into a fight because attacking Phil alone no longer produces enough outrage. That view has merit. Evan has kept a low profile and has not built a public career from criticizing his father. Turning an unclear record into evidence of estrangement risks punishing the very person supposedly being defended. Critics will answer that Phil created the environment in which such a rumor could thrive. Reputation is like a tournament score. One brilliant eagle does not delete every double bogey. His major victories remain real. So do the controversies. When trust has been damaged repeatedly, people stop assuming innocent explanations. Fair or not, that is the price of becoming a public figure whose boldest decisions affected an entire sport. Both sides should agree on one point. The available evidence does not establish that Evan has cut ties with Phil. It does not confirm that he formally abandoned the Mickelson surname. In fact, his own website points in the opposite direction. We can discuss why he may want independence. We can examine Phil's choices and their possible effect on his family. What we cannot honestly do is turn speculation into a verified family war simply because the headline lands like a perfect drive. There is also a broader issue here. Children of star athletes are constantly compared with legends they never volunteered to replace. If they play the same sport, every result becomes a judgment on bloodline. If they choose another path, people ask whether they disappointed the parent. When they use the surname, critics accuse them of benefiting from it. Should they use less of it, those same critics declare a feud. That is not a fair way. It is a maze with cameras. Evan appears to have chosen technology, software, game development, and music as parts of his professional identity. That choice deserves to be judged on its own terms. Phil chased flags. Evan can chase ideas. One career unfolds before galleries, the other can happen behind a screen. Difference does not equal distance. Sometimes the healthiest thing a famous athlete's child can do is build a scoreboard that has nothing to do with pars, cuts, or major championships. At the same time, we should not romanticize celebrity families. Wealth does not cancel hurt. Private jets cannot fly over every emotional problem. 6 major trophies do not guarantee 6 easy family relationships. Phil's decisions may have produced conversations his children never wanted. His admissions suggest real damage occurred around his gambling. Whether that damage created lasting tension with Evan remains private, and responsible commentary has to respect that line. So, do you believe the roster rumor exposed a hidden fracture, or did the internet manufacture a family crisis from messy information? Drop your opinion in the comments right now. I want to know whether you see Evan as a son seeking independence or as a private person being unfairly pulled into Phil's public controversies. Just remember the distinction between possibility and proof. Drama can start the conversation. Evidence has to finish it. For Phil, the irony is sharp. He became famous by refusing to play safe, but his family may now need the privacy and caution he rarely showed on the course. Lefty could attack a tucked pin from behind a tree and make millions cheer. Repairing trust, protecting loved ones, and accepting consequences require a quieter kind of courage. There is no gallery roar. For that work, usually nobody sees it at all. Maybe there was a routine roster adjustment. Perhaps an unrelated listing was mistaken for Phil's son. Possibly, Evan prefers less public attention around certain parts of his life. Until credible records or direct statements establish more, those explanations remain more defensible than declaring a family breakup. The least exciting answer may be the correct one. Golf fans should understand that better than anyone. Most rounds are decided by ordinary pars, not miracle shots. At 56, Phil may be learning that the heaviest name in golf is not always the easiest one for a son to carry. Yet the evidence currently shows Evan still using Mickelson, not publicly throwing it away. That leaves us with a mystery, a damaged reputation, and a warning about how quickly online speculation can cross the ropes into private family life. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button and subscribe so you do not miss the next major golf controversy. Then drop your final verdict below. Did Evan quietly distance himself from Lefty? Or has Phil's reputation turned ordinary paperwork into another scandal? Until somebody produces real proof, the biggest name dropped here may be the truth itself.